I think that one distinction we need to make is between the centralized and the localized. So Michelle's been incredibly positive about the work we did, and I'm very grateful to her for that. But there probably are other people like us who can do things as well. But the reason why, what we're going to be trying to do with IAS is develop a really sort of local, sort of in-depth audit product, which takes each individual client on its own merits and really gets under the skin. There's the increasingly nowadays the sort of work we do is highly centralized, as I said before. It's all based on standardized templates. The same team is measuring every market, and that works for big clients. So the guy sitting in New York who's got a sort of $1 billion spend globally, he just needs he needs his dashboard where South Africa crops up as one bar. Either it's green or it's amber or it's red, and if it's green then no one cares, and if it's red then everyone starts shouting, and that's about it. That works for some clients, but what we're trying to do is get much more under the skin of what ultimately is a people business. And another point to note would be that we're not always just focusing on the agencies. We've recently worked with one of our big clients to assess where they're spending their digital monies. And they were putting a huge chunk of money into one particular digital, if you want to call them a media owner, I won't name the media owner. But that was driven by the fact that they had done a direct deal with that media owner. And our view was they were just throwing far too much money their way. It was also the agency's view. And we were talking, it was a multi-market project. We were talking to agency teams in some markets where they were saying, well, our TV deals are completely messed up now because we've had to take money out of TV in order to feed this client deal, and it's just it's just not right as far as we're concerned. So in that particular instance, it took some time, but we were able to say, listen, you're putting far too much money into one pot, and it's not really the right pot anyway. And we were actually sort of working alongside the agency to try and persuade the client they need to do something different. So it can work in different ways. We've also conducted audits in South Africa where we're auditing a local agency, and there's a big central global agencies that are, hanging over every market trying to muscle in, but sometimes actually we'll come in and say, well, listen, these guys are doing a pretty good job. And, frankly, the local client don't really want to change. They're worried about having some big central agency who aren't going to do as good a job. And so, we can, again, sort of try and facilitate things to work in favor of the locals rather than the central people. So, these sort of reviews are multifaceted and can work in different ways. And, as and when we do start working with local teams, clients and agencies, I'd always counsel that it's best to engage with us and try and in some ways affect and impact and, and not necessarily even potentially change the process in your favor. It's not going to be a set in stone process where we say, oh, we're right and you're wrong. It's a discussion and a dialogue. And if everyone engages with it, it can be very positive. I'm not suggesting that the findings are always good, and sometimes there are hard debates to be had, but it's better to have them than not. And if those debates are had, then you're less likely to get to a point where everyone's, fallen out with everyone else and you no longer trust your agency. And so you finally decide you have to pitch, because that has to be the end point, I would suggest.
Yeah,
unless you really feel that you need to pitch, unless you have a really good reason to do it, my advice is always don't. And if a client says, should I pitch? And I say, well, why do you want to pitch? And they don't have an answer, then the answer is don't pitch, because you've got to have a good reason to do it,